This episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast is brought to you by the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. Hello and welcome to the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we are strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is Beauty by ABIC.
I'm your host, Tamara Reid, and today's guests are Stefanie Milla and Suzanne Robertson from the United Institute of Aesthetics, advanced dermal and modality education providers. Stefanie Milla is a skin educator and cosmetic formulator who has owned and run dermal clinics for the past 22 years. She formulated and founded Dermalist, a clinical skincare range in 2020 that has quickly developed a cult following due to its cutting-edge formulations. Stef is also a director and the CEO of the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council, our peak industry body for beauty and aesthetics. Suzanne Robertson has been one of the most respected dermal therapists in our industry for the past 15 years, building a reputation as a successful manager and a leader of multiple advanced skin clinics. Suzi truly is a Master Dermal Trainer with industry-leading experience in education, dermal therapy, lasers, and modalities. Suzi and Stef blend their collective industry experience and combine it with the latest advanced learning methods and technology to teach you not only about the science of skin, but how to correctly learn, retain, and apply that information for success in your careers and clinics. Hello, community. It's Tamara here, and what a pleasure it is to be back in your ears for this very special episode today. Jumping straight into things, I'd like to give a warm welcome to someone whose voice you already know, I'm sure, and whose brand new business you are about to get to know. It is our very own ABIC CEO, Stefanie Milla, and co-founder Suzi Robertson. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you, Tamara. It's so great being on the other side of the microphone as a guest today. Oh my goodness. And of course, how special is it that you've come back to host us today? I have missed you, and I'm sure so many other listeners have as well. So thank you so much.
It is my pleasure. We were just saying off air that it has been a while since I've done a podcast, so hopefully it's like riding a bike. And Suzi, welcome. This is your first podcast with us.
This is my first podcast, so thank you very much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to our chat today.
Likewise. Now, I want to hear from you both a little bit about yourselves and how your pathways came to interconnect and create this incredible business.
Yeah, well, I'll start. So I know that I stepped foot in the industry back in about 2005. So working on my years of experience there, and I've been through all industries of beauty, starting off in, spa and skincare and clinic and moving into the training sector now. But it was in about 2009 when I started working with Stef, and initially, I was Stef's employee. She was my boss. And just like any good employee, I had to impress her to keep my job initially. But then, of course, I have such a passion for the industry. And as the years went by, Stef changed from being my boss. She started to become my mentor. She helped really guide me, and she helped push me and help me grow in the beauty industry, and exposed me to, new treatments and new ideas and new platforms and new processes. And as the years went on, I found, there would be times when Stef would approach me, and Stef, you probably remember, we would have a few brainstorming sessions.
Yes, I do remember and all of our brainstorming sessions. We still have.
Yeah, they've grown now. But they were, and that was really exciting for me, that we would start to talk about, different treatment packages, treatment plans, multi-therapies, how to incorporate, layering systems with treatments, protocols and procedures. And I saw as the years went on a slight twinkle in Stef's eye as I started to develop, more and more. And eventually it's led into, this amazing friendship of 13 years and has brought us to where we are today in more of a training, development and sort of education area.
Listening to you talk, it's just it makes me reminisce about our long-standing friendship and obviously partnership. And honestly, it's been such an honor and privilege to watch you grow over these years. It's really something that's close to my heart. And then I saw the potential in you a long time ago, and privileged to be actually partnering with you now in this endeavor. Yes, we met 12 years ago, but you've been my business partner long before we started United Institute of Aesthetics. That's for sure.
How magic is that relationship? And you know what, Suzi, as you were just describing your relationship with Stef, I kind of felt like I was also listening to my relationship of Stef, and I'm sure many people listening who know Stef and just out in industry at large, you do start working with Stef in like the most professional capacity, be it, for Stef and I, it was business development when I was working at Skinsitude at the time. And then she turns into a mentor and just ultimately a friend. And I'm sure many people would have that exact same mirrored relationship. So what a special time that, your cross paths can now result in an incredible business for the industry, and specifically with regards to education, which is where I want to kind of lead us into today, because a lot of education facilities pop up out there. And I want to know from you both, why is education so important to you and to your business?
Well, I think I'll start with this one, and then Suzi, hand over to you if that's okay. Look, our industry, it's such a changing industry. It's over the past 15 years, we've seen dramatic changes take effect that have led this skills gap to exist within our qualifications, our formal qualifications. And that means that people that are doing the diploma of beauty therapy, a lot of the time they're going into the industry and they're looking into aesthetics or dermal. And of course, there's no regulation to stop them from pursuing that career, but they don't come in with the skills. So, it leaves this quite large chasm that we need to fill with micro credentials or with experienced people and trainers out there that can actually fill that gap. A lot of people that come out of the diploma directly, they want to go into dermal therapies, but they didn't want to study the 3 years to do the full bachelor. And there is this middle ground between having to do a 3-year and possibly 4-year dermal bachelor, basically, and being able to actually perform some of the treatments that are out there. So really, education and training institutes such as ours, they fill that gap for employers and for people in the industry who just want to advance their career. And we've seen that, Suzi and I have been training in this industry for the last 6-7 years. I've actually run clinics for the last 20 odd years. And I've always had to incorporate a training program in my actual clinics. There is, no way I would have hired somebody even out of the dermal therapies bachelor and have them automatically treat my patients because there's, and Suzi will talk about it, there's no substitute for experience and for hands-on on-the-job sort of training. So I suppose that's why I think education is so important, because of that missing link, that missing, I suppose, skills that we don't get in the formal qualification. And we just frankly can't, because our industry changes so fast. Suzi, over to you.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with everything that you've said there, Stef. When it comes down to, experience and exposure, me personally, the more experience that I have, I'm continuing to grow and I'm continuing to develop. And, I've been exposed to various in-clinic situations where I do a lot of observations and I just sometimes sit back and watch, and I have that first-hand visual of the different types of capabilities of the different learners, the different students, the different staff that come into the industry, depending on what level they're at. And as you mentioned, Steph, with the sheer speed of this advancement of the technology in our industry, it is really hard for these new students to keep up. And it's not only about the students, it's also about, the business owners as well. I tend to find that I really work collaboratively with the employee and the employer, because I feel that education needs to be developed in both areas. I feel that business owners need to create the guides, the plans, the expectations, the development systems to help create these, new wonderful therapists. And so, doing in-room evaluations and providing that feedback, I've been able to personally learn so much and see where we can improve. We can improve the whole industry so much. And feedback is so invaluable for individual growth and to help really develop the unity in a workplace environment. And what I really want to do is all of that I've seen, I really want to help to share that through education. I want to help be able to train because I've just seen this gap where I feel that we can really help excel and improve all of these new students.
And I also have to say that our industry is suffering from a chronic lack of respect when it comes to, comparatively with other industries, even when you compare it to an industry like hospitality. And that's because we don't have the necessary regulations in place to be able to call ourselves, if you call yourself a beauty therapist or if you call yourself a skin therapist, really you can call yourself that even if you don't have the qualification. It's not a protected type of title. And so instilling more education in our industry is going to just raise that respect level for our industry and bring more people back to our industry, because of course we know that a lot of people have left, especially started before COVID, but even after COVID, we had, a sort of a migration of people out of our industry. And we have seen that there's been less people actually signing up for Diploma of Beauty Therapy. It's actually down by about 70%, I think, in terms of entrances. But also in terms of people finishing the diploma, that's a problem. Over 50% of people don't actually go ahead and complete their Diploma of Beauty Therapy because they're finding that what they're learning doesn't actually suit what they want to do in the industry. So, you need institutes and training institutes like that to come in and, as we keep saying, fill that gap and get people reinterested in our industry and raise respect levels for the industry as well.
Yes. I'm sitting here nodding along to everything you're saying. And I think the last 2 years have certainly made us reflect on what our industry landscape is currently performing as. And I think what we've further identified is that there are almost two gaps, which I think, if I can summarize from what both of you are saying, there's the gap between your beauty therapist and your dermal therapist, right? So I am qualified in beauty, waxing lashes, nails, tinting, etc., but I want to be dermal, or maybe I don't want to be dermal, but I just want to focus on skin and advanced skin at that, but I don't want to put all of my efforts into more study and a full-time bachelor. And then there's this second gap between the dermal graduates and when they enter industry, being industry ready, because if you are a graduate, you don't necessarily have those hands-on hours on clients. And are you confident enough to treat a client on an advanced modality? Maybe not. So I absolutely adore what you're both saying, is that we need to inject this hype back into the industry to say, you are professionals. This is a serious qualification and we can advance your level of confidence and competence back in with your business, which I'm so excited to hear about.
Yes, and how eloquently did you say that?
Pop that on the billboard, ladies. There you go. I'll bill you later.
No one does it better than you.
And so I want to hear all about the relaunch, because you have rebranded your Dermal and Aesthetic Training Institute, and it is a brilliant name, might I add, the United Institute of Aesthetics. I absolutely love that. Tell me all of the things. Why did you decide to rebrand? And then why take it national? Because that is a big, chunky task.
It certainly is. Well, for starters, the rebranding only made sense. We were called Australian Dermal Institute, and really we never even referred to ourselves as that. We were just, much the training school, the training academy, or various names we've given it. We never really had a strong identity because we mainly serviced our clinics. We absolutely did service others, but was mainly our clinics. And so we wanted to offer the service that we have been giving to our clinics and people in Melbourne, nationally. And it was it's just a natural extension and progression of that. But really it says it all in the title, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to unite the industry. We're trying to share our skills with people, so not to hoard or be protective of skills and be protective of knowledge, but actually give everybody the knowledge that we have, because we believe it's for the common good, and we believe that education is a thread to connect people and unite people. And so the name just came to us organically, because we really want to work with, and we are working with other RTOs and non-RTOs in this space as well to provide a service. So it's not just us. We are linking arms with some of the best out there, and you'll see, as time progresses, who we're partnering with. And it's pretty special, because where we can't get to a credential or a particular course, our partners will, and vice versa, because we really do believe everybody deserves education. Everybody deserves to grow their skills and have that respect for themselves and build their self-confidence in the way that education can only do. So it was kind of like a natural progression of where we were, and the name sums up what the sentiment is behind it, I suppose. Susie, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely a huge part of the rebrand. And also, too, on top of that, we know that, I suppose, over the last few years, we've been exposed to some lockdowns. And something that happened throughout those lockdowns was education platforms and training changed. We had to develop new ways where we could get messages and information across to people. And then we also had to develop new ways to help them learn and retain that information. And what came out of that was actually some really interesting, I found myself doing a lot of research on all of the different ways to engage with people through a computer. And me personally, I always try and make things fun. I find that learning and retention and memory is all enhanced and increased when you can attach an emotion to it. And of course, what better emotion than fun, laughter, and happiness? And so, I found, with the rebrand, I really wanted to try and shake things up a little bit, make things a little bit different in terms of our delivery, make things a little bit more fun, create new learning pathways, create interactive, engaging, really fun ways for people to learn. And so, we made sure that in the rebrand, we would include an online component, which can now be, accessible to anyone, anywhere. And in that online component, we've made sure that there are really fun, interesting ways, really good ways to help increase retention methods and learning. So the days of lecturing, sitting down and just listening and, falling asleep, and every now and again you might get woken up from a buzzword, I want to get rid of those days. I want to really help increase games, increase activities, increase fun, create flashcards. I want to talk about our learning methods and the things that we've changed in the rebrand to really try and push and excel and increase memory retention across the nation.
Yes, that is such a good point. Firstly, I just want to say, how kind of it is for you to want to share this education standard with the national community. I think I have visited your clinics, and they are 5 out of 5 top tier standard. And I always,
thank you.
I leave and I think, oh my goodness, where are these therapists being trained? And, for you to have this internal training system, which produces a 5 out of 5 standard every single time, is so special. And the fact that you've said, we don't want to keep this and as a secret for ourselves. We want to share this for the impact of the community and to elevate the industry at large, I think is very, very special. And what you're saying there about increasing memory, Suzi, makes the return on investment for business owners all that more worthwhile, right? Because we know what happens is, if I'm a business owner, I send my therapist to a day course, she learns, I have to shut down the column for the entire day, I've got to pay her to go and learn the thing. She comes back and then she forgets everything. And I'm saying she, but it's really they, them, whoever, right? And so yes, that return on investment for me, and what I hear out in industry is, oh my goodness, it costs so much to train my staff, and then they come back and they don't remember anything, and then they can't put it into practice. So the things you're saying around core memory there and just that tangibility of training, for me, just makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I think I've witnessed firsthand over the years. You start to see it. I remember sitting in clinic and when I first started with, training and passing on my knowledge to new staff that might come through the door, you have that lecture approach. And, a week later, I'll be like, oh, hang on, I didn't see you, apply that new skill that I told you. It's like, oh, I forgot. Or, oh, hang on a minute, didn't I tell you, and so you have to start to figure out ways where you can actually help them learn.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that kind of segues nicely into my next curiosity, which is, what kind of training do you actually specialize in, cater for?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's quite a range. So I suppose starting off with skin education, and that can be, a whole range of things: advanced skin science, skin biology, skin conditions, skin repair, skin regeneration, and anything essentially to do with skin holistically and skin health. And then we move into, of course, dermal treatment modality devices. So that could cover off on devices like microdermabrasion, skin needling devices, chemical peel applications, cryotherapy, plasma energy treatments, and so on. But with treatment modality devices, it's not just teaching them how to use the machine. It's also teaching them why you should select a certain machine or device. I feel that anybody can sort of come in and go, okay, here's a machine, let me, show you how to push a few buttons, but we need to be able to pass on the information of why do you choose that device. And the same applies. We also train in laser, IPL, LED, again, laser safety standards, laser handling and applications. But we go into detail about why you might choose one laser over another, why you might choose IPL. And we can go into detail about short pulse lasers, long pulse lasers, and why you might select one over the other, various wavelengths, and what are those wavelengths doing within the skin, and why you might select one for a certain skin condition over another one, laser and light, penetration depths, and what is the light? What is it? What is actually penetrating into the skin? We go as deep as to talk about, photon science and frequencies and the cellular response that's occurring deep within the tissues. So there is also, of course, machine tutorials, machine demonstrations, but then we go into more hands-on as well. So even though we're specializing in theory, information, we've got that online component, but at the same time, nothing replaces experience. So we also specialize in going into clinics, and either you can come to us or we can come to you, and we can show you why and how to use machines certain ways, and how you can combine them together to get the best outcome for your patients.
The Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council is Australia's peak industry body, representing the collective professional beauty and aesthetic, salon, clinic and spa community. Created for the industry, by the industry, our council is a collaboration of industry leaders who bring their commitment and specialised skills to raise industry standards, guide regulation and be a strong voice to government. At ABIC, our purpose is to provide an accessible and supportive organisation for the betterment of the professional beauty and aesthetic field, to enhance working practices and promote unity across the various sectors of the industry. ABIC's mission also includes being a trusted source of referral, education and guidance for clients of the beauty and aesthetic profession. ABIC is here to support our members through an extensive offering, including hundreds of valuable resources, HR support, and industry expert facilitators to ensure your continued growth and success. Join us today, and together let's safeguard the future of the beauty and aesthetic industry. Find us at www.theabic.org.au. At ABIC, we are here for you.
I love that you've just said combine them as well, because, you know, there's a lot of times where we have more advanced therapists that we have obviously basic courses and entry-level courses, but we also have courses designed for more advanced students. And that's because when you get to a certain level, you're able to then use multi-therapy to actually treat skin concerns effectively. We go through all of the skin concerns. So if you want to learn about skin concerns, where they come from, their origin, and how to treat them holistically, so it's not just using a device, but using all the tools that you have at your disposal and the information to actually train how to address that skin concern, we've got that knowledge for you. But we can actually look at the tools in your clinic, see what modalities you have, and then teach you how to combine those modalities to actually get the better result. Because as we all know, using one modality and one tool at your disposal never gives you as greater results as you can get when you combine those modalities together and really use that holistic global approach on the skin. So we really range from really basic sort of knowledge and entry level all the way to, you know, very, very advanced for your top tier senior therapists, as well as talking about sales. So we don't just train for this is how you use the laser and this is how you practically do something. We do success training. So everything we do, everything we talk about is always geared to, how do you use this modality? How do you sell this modality? How do you make the customer comfortable using this modality? How do you treat the customer throughout the procedure? How do you get the customer to come back? How do you package this up? We talk about it all while we're actually training. So it's a real, 360 approach to everything that we do. And I think that's what makes it really unique, because we run clinics. We know exactly what it's like, having the challenges of running a day-to-day business. And also I know what it's like taking that therapist out of a whole day worth of treating, to send them to training, and then them consistently maybe not reaching their success targets or their KPIs within the treatment parameters, but also within the actual sales and customer service area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I am not a treating therapist. I haven't treated a client in so long, but listening to you both, I'm feeling like I just want to get back on the tools again and get my hands in there and start cleansing faces and getting out the laser and shooting it all around. So I'm sure
it's so fun. I'm not a therapist either, but I get FOMO. I'm very, very theory based, and I can create treatment packages and create courses and really understand in depth, but I don't get my hands dirty. And when I do, I think, oh, wow, what a treat. I really do envy people that do that every day, because I think it's such a creative expression as well, and such a loving, energetic job that you give, as in you exchange energy, and you can leave that situation, happier, more relaxed, more confident, and just more fulfilled as a person, knowing that you've given of yourself to somebody and that person's shared their energy with you. I think what we do as therapists is very, very special.
Yeah, totally. And even back to your point around combining modalities and interlinking that kind of creative aspect, when you are an advanced skin therapist, and as you were saying before, there's no official titles, but let's just title people that for the sake of this sentence that I'm about to say, when you're doing the same treatment over and over again, and it's the same thing, and you become that robotic mode, and you set the settings on the same thing, and you do the passes every way at the same time, that is boring. who wants to treat like that? You're only going to ever get one outcome. So when you're combining these modalities and you are being creative and, you know, you're really looking at the skin in front of you and creating that bespoke treatment because you have the knowledge on how and why to do so, I think that is where the magic comes in. And this is what I hear to be true about your unique learning system as well. And I want to ask you, why is this so effective? And really, how does this differ from the traditional training approaches that are already currently in the market?
Oh, well, I'll start. I'm so excited about this part of it because I think our industry is extremely, I suppose, lagging in this area. We don't really use science, the science of learning in our industry as much as, say, you know, the technology world or other fields. And I think it's a really exciting topic to understand because we teach the science of learning as well. We prepare our students. So we think, why are you doing the training? You're doing it to grow and learn and to retain. Obviously, you have a learning curve and then you have a forgetting curve. And some people have a steeper forgetting curve than others. And that's based on a lot of things. Studies show that it's based on self-interest. So when you're learning something and you think you're going to get something out of it to benefit you or benefit your life, selfishly, you retain more. That's just cognitively the way it works. And in your subconscious, you tend to hoard the information and you tend to create deeper neural pathways and links in your brain when it's for your self-interest. So that's actually biology. So when you're presented with a situation where, you know, you're sent to training because your boss sends you to training, you go there reluctantly, it's all going to go in one ear and out the other. The retention rate is not strong when you're driven, your motivation is because somebody else has sent you there. So before we even start to train somebody, we actually ask them and try to ignite their reason for being there, because that nothing beats that self-interest for the retention of information. And then we try and find out also what type of learner they are. So, you know, basically there's all different types of learner. There's auditory learners, there's visual learners, and there's people who are a combination. Before even we start to talk to them about the training subjects, we identify what type of learner is there. And sometimes there'll be mixed types of learners in the room with us. And then Suzi will need to pull out all her tricks and sort of use mixed modalities to mixed training techniques to actually deliver the message. But and Suzi will take over soon, but we talk about using mnemonics and acronyms to remember, you know, gamification. That's huge. Gamification is huge in the IT world, and that's how people learn. They play a game, they get rewarded, they get a sense of adrenaline, a sense of serotonin boost, and a little bit of a oxytocin boost from, you know, having that warm and fuzzy feeling of achieving something. And those chemicals actually help to lay down the myelin sheaths in the neural pathway. They actually lay a thicker myelin sheath. And so the thicker, of course, the myelin sheath on the neural pathway, the stronger that neural pathway is, meaning you will remember it for a long time. The pathway becomes thicker. As a matter of fact, you know, if you ever learn something in trauma, or if you ever have a traumatic experience, it's hard to forget, because the chemicals that are in your body at the same time that you're experiencing this actually lay really strong, very robust myelin sheaths in that neural pathway that actually prevent you from forgetting. So anybody who knows that had a bit of a shock or a bit of a traumatic experience, they'll keep remembering that over and over again. But you can actually simulate and recreate that with happiness, love, energy, and heaps of laughter. Laughter does the same thing. And you know, Suzi's so funny, and the way that she delivers things is so great. I literally could listen to Suzi speak all day. I'm such a fan. And you know me, I'm not that easy to please. So if I'm telling you I could listen to Suzi all day and just absorb information, you can be guaranteed a fun time. Suzi, do you want to just take over and tell them a little bit about what you do to prepare the students?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest parts is, of course, as you mentioned, helping them to retain the information. And so we need to look at the different types of applications we can provide to do that. And something that you mentioned about, creating and the new neural pathways, there can be a problem because you might have heard the saying, practice makes perfect. And so someone will hear something somewhere and they'll go, okay, I'm going to practice that. In actual fact, in my mind, practice doesn't make perfect. And I've also heard practice makes progress. Yes, that's probably getting a little bit closer. It does make you progress to get better. You should never feel that you've perfected something because there's always room to grow and develop and get better. But the problem that I foresee is that there is the technique that you've been practicing. So if you're practicing the technique the wrong way, or what you've learned, if you've been applying it, the wrong way or an incorrect way, or if there's better ways to do it, what happens is you create this new learning pathway for yourself and you continue to do it the wrong way. And then it's very, very hard. That saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because essentially what's happened is you've developed this new pathway, you've developed this new learning style, and it can be very difficult to retrain that. And so what we need to do is we need to be in the room, be experienced, be firsthand, and really listen to the students. So again, not speaking at them, but listening and observing what they're doing more and more, which might seem like, hang on a minute, why am I getting somebody to just sit there and listen to what she's saying? But this is how we as educators can really understand where the learner is at. And we can really understand, as Steph mentioned, what their learning style is, so that we can help to intervene at certain points, because what we need to do is we need to interject when we see something come up that might have been explained in a way that maybe wasn't appropriate, or, maybe the learner wants to develop their detail of information and you need to instantly stop. So let's say that somebody's demonstrating to me a consultation process for a certain procedure, and they'll explain something and they'll maybe mention something backwards or the wrong way or the wrong layer of skin, whatever it might be. If I let them continue from that point forward, then they're instantly like, oh, yep, okay, that was correct, keep going. So what we need to do, and we need to do it dramatically, as Steph said, maybe with some form of emotion, is to interject and intervene straight away and go, okay, stop, I'm going to get you to repeat that. And then I'm going to get you to repeat it again, because of course, retention and repetition also helps to increase memory and create new pathways. And so these are the applications that we provide, in clinic when we're in front of somebody directly doing observation days. But we've also got a lot of learning techniques and applications that we do online, of course. So as Steph mentioned, there's various types of learners. We've got visual learners, auditory, kinesthetic learners, and learners even that just like to read and write information. And to give you a little bit more information about that, I suppose for, let's say, visual learners, they use sight and their vision. And so we need to make sure that we incorporate images, diagrams, graphics, charts, even flashcards, picture games, picture quizzes, anything where they can use a visual approach. Because what happens is later on, when they're, away from us and left the training and they're in the treatment room, they search their memory and they're looking back and they're looking for that picture. And then you'll have auditory learners that like to learn through listening. So we encourage speaking, we encourage group discussions, we encourage verbal repetition. Recording and listening back to yourself is a great one. And even, making sure sometimes you have to say things out loud. So auditory learners, helping them to learn, get them to repeat what you say, but now you have to say it in front of someone, say it out loud. As Steph mentioned, mnemonics and acronyms are wonderful. I've got a great one that I use for the layers of the skin, the layers of the epidermis. So you've got your basale, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and corneum. And I always say to people, but Sarah gave Lucy carrots. And they look at me and they instantly go, what? And I'm like, okay, there's my pause, there's my dramatic effect. Now they're thinking about who's Sarah and who's Lucy and what have I missed in the training. And so so instantly, most people know someone named Sarah. If you don't know Lucy, it could be a Leanne or Lorraine or whoever it might be. And you visualize, not only now have you got your mnemonics, but you've also visualizing, your two friends, Sarah and Lucy, exchanging carrots, which is just this, weird thing. And so it helps you use the mnemonics by using the first letter of each word to help remember the layers of the epidermis. So, and of course, you know, kinesthetic learning, that's a given with the hands-on treatment, physical interaction, you know, creates that experience and practice, and, you know, performing movement, performing physical interactions with real models, and a whole range of different types of models as well. And of course, you know, we provide companion booklets, which is for those people that do love the old-fashioned, you know, pen and paper and taking notes. And of course, in the online component, you know, with reading and writing, there's also ways that, you know, in our learning portal, there's actually some really fun sections where you can do like mix and match games. So, you know, you read the words, or you read a part of the sentence and you have to fill in the blanks, or, you know, put the sentence in the correct order. And so what happens with that in terms of learning is people that love to read and write and reflect back on their notes see their learning in word form. And, you know, you can highlight words, you can put words in bold, you know, you can use ebooks to, you know, save certain text and certain sections, because when they look back and they reflect on those words, again, later on in their memory, they just need that one key word to trigger them, so that they can help remember the whole content that they learned around that. Yeah, lots of fun.
One other thing, you know, when a lot of times when you do courses, and this is one thing as a business owner I experience all the time, and I know business owners are going to, and also students and learners are going to feel me right now when I say this, but people will do a course, or you'll send them off to do a course, and then that's it. You'll never hear from them again unless you book something else. We don't do that. We understand that we need to interrupt the forgetting curve. So we actually do the training, and then we have follow-ups at certain periods of time, because if you don't interrupt that forgetting curve, no matter what you've done in that one instance, because at the end of the day, it's just one isolated training, isn't going to stay with them forever. So, you know, 2 weeks later, right, 2 weeks later, when, you know, you're at the peak of that curve is starting to really amp up, you know, you interrupt them with sending them some kind of a quiz, or you're sending them some kind of, you know, something that will jog their memory. You have a follow-up session with them, and then, you know, at another month later, and then, you know, at 3 months later. And so we always keep in touch with our students to make sure that they are remembering, they're not forgetting, and that they're actually successful. And to that, if a business owner really wants to extend that and actually get the value out of it, we have memberships. So you can actually join a training membership where you get your training at a very discounted price, but then you also get monthly follow-ups and monthly training, so that your students and your staff are never forgetting. They're always building on their skills. So you're not taking 2 steps forward, you know, 3 steps back every single time, because that's the most frustrating thing. And I've learned over the years, you teach a staff member something, and you need to remind them, and you need to have a mini follow-up to jog their memory, so that the next time you're teaching them, you can build on those skills. Otherwise, those skills are going to be completely forgotten.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So much. Yes, yes, yes. In all of this chat. And, you know, as you were talking about those myelin sheaths, you know, I was thinking, if somebody said to you, what has been the best day of your life so far, or what's been the worst day of your life so far, I'm sure you could pull out a memory that is locked away in there within 10 seconds, right? But if I asked you, what did you have for dinner last night? You would have no idea. Like a lot of the time,
because I had lasagna.
Oh, well, there you go. But you know, you can't really remember that, you know, because it wasn't an incredible experience, unless maybe you went to Nobu last night for dinner, right? But it wasn't
an incredible experience. My mum kills it with the lasagna.
Oh, well, your mum is, a cook, a whiz, let me say that. But also as well, Suzi, you took me back to when I first studied beauty, which was 15 years ago, with your but Sarah gave Lucy carrots, because my acronym of that is the opposite way down. So starting from the corneum down, and mine is curvy ladies get sexy guys. Ooh. And I know, right? And so I have remembered that for 15 years.
Wow. Doesn't that just go to show? That is phenomenal. I love that.
Yes, it is so, so cool. And so I guess my ultimate question here is, we understand you do both in-person and online training, but how do you do all of these auditory, kinesthetic, pattern interrupt, all of that kind of stuff in the online space? Because it can be difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to make sure that we've really researched our, application in the online world. And so there's various ways that you can apply it. So when you're, like I mentioned before, we do a lot of little mix and match games. When I say online, it's not necessarily just a pre-recorded lecture. So, it can be actually a face-to-face online lesson. And sometimes you'll actually find that depending on the therapist that's having the education or going through the training, I might initially do a pre-interview with that therapist just over the phone. And this is if it's with a one-on-one, or essentially I could do a pre-interview with the employer. And so what I want to determine here is, what is the learning outcome? What do we want to actually achieve? And what is the basic fundamentals that we want to reach for the outcome? And where are they already at with their learning? And so by having a really quick conversation with somebody, I've got a little spreadsheet of questions that I like to ask depending on what it is that we're training in, to sort of see where their level of learning is at. And so that instantly gives me that first interview where I can determine, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we need to focus on. Because the other thing that you need to do with learning is you need to adapt to the individuals. So I need to change constantly in order to help them better understand. So I need to adapt my learning style and my technique, the way that I explain things, or whether I use those pictures, or whether I use diagrams, or whether I use words, depending on the individual. So we start off initially with that pre-training interview process. And then once we've developed that, then we go into, okay, yep, this person is ready for this particular session, or this person is ready for this particular type of lesson plan, to make sure that they're tailored and targeted to their direct training mode. And then throughout the learning, it's interrupted. So we don't just have somebody, let's say it's a pre-recorded session, for example, you don't just sit there and you listen to, 6 hours of somebody talking. So it might go for, one module might go for 15 minutes, or one module might go for half an hour, depending on what it is that you're learning about. And then directly after that learning unit, there is an activity. There's something that you need to do. There's something that you need to change. And there's also different ways throughout the learning module. It might be listening to somebody. It might be looking at pictures or videos. It might be a little bit interactive, where you need to go in and click on a few things, because we want to make sure that we're constantly keeping them engaged. Because the last thing that you want to do is just have somebody listening with their headphones on and, falling half asleep on the couch. That's not the goal. And I've seen that far too much in the past. And so we make sure that through the online component, we're keeping lots of engagement. And the other way that we make sure that we're applying different learning techniques in clinic is to keep things engaging. Let's say we're doing a session on chemical peels, advanced chemical peels application. Throughout that training, we'll have a day of theory, and then we'll have a day of models. And so in the model component, we don't just get one model in and perform one treatment. We make sure that we source various types of models. So with chemical peels, for example, there's a whole range of types of applications that you can perform. And, we'll have a client that might first have acne, and then our next model will have pigment, and then our next model will have wrinkles, and our next model will have redness, and our last model might have scars. And, even with the scars, we make sure that our models have various types of applications that the therapist is going to need to choose between. So is it a trophic scar? Is it a hypertrophic scar? Is it raised? Is it indented? Have they got excess collagen production? Does this treatment require more than just chemical peels? Do we need to look at multi-therapy options? And we really get the brain ticking, and we really make sure that we're putting the therapist in control. And then that gives the trainer an opportunity to instantly interject at conversations and communications to try and get the best possible outcome. A lot of communication, a lot of reflection, a lot of discussion and brainstorming, which are all, of course, ways that we can help increase that learning, whether it be online, whether it be face-to-face online, or whether it be in clinic.
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible. Well, look, I have to say you have both certainly reignited my passion for education just off the back of today's conversation. So I can only imagine how your prospective students are going to feel walking out of a complete day's training with you both. And I would love to thank you both for being on the podcast with me today. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for letting me back into the ears of your audience.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Tamara. I am so in awe of you both. It's just been a privilege talking to you both for an hour. And Tamara, no one does it better than you.
I'd have to agree. I'm sorry, Steph, but that was wonderful.
So much love.
I could only try to be, a 10th or whatever as good as you. But goodness, what a great host you are and a great communicator. So thank you.
Oh, stop it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tamara, for having us on. I've really enjoyed this podcast.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Beauté by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.